Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk just a little bit about the different rental agreements that farmers will have with their landlords, namely share rent versus cash rent.
Well, when you think about it, if a farmer is going to rent some farm ground from another person, that person may have been a farmer in the past, or they may not have been a farmer in the past, and they may be very interested about what happens on their ground, or they may just be interested in cashing the check and knowing exactly how much money they're going to have for the year. I certainly can appreciate if you're on a fixed income and you say, I have to have this much money to get through the year, I can see how cash rent would be a good deal. For me, Brian, though, as a farmer now, I can just see myself in retirement with land that I own saying, you know, I still want to be involved. I want to know what's going on. I want to hear from that farmer about the decisions that are getting made. I may want to share in that crop where if we have a great year, I get more money. But if we have a tough year, well, then we both share in that tough year.
Yeah, but see, what's changed now is there is crop insurance today, where we didn't used to have crop insurance, and especially good crop revenue assurance like we have now. The farmer really was taking a lot of risk, so the landlord was almost forced to share in some of that risk with him. Well, now the landlord just looks at it like, well, Mr. Farmer, you can go get crop insurance, so you're going to be protected here. So I just want to get my check. And we've seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of share rental agreements in the last 20 years compared to cash rent. Most farmers that I know, they've all gone to cash rent, and you know, that's fine. It's just a little bit different way to do things. When it comes to this management side that Darren is talking about, in a lot of cases, that's the way it used to be. It was always the retired farmer. He would work with this younger farmer who was now farming his ground, and they would talk a little about the seed and the herbicide and the fertilizer and all these things that would go back and forth. Well, there are a lot of decisions that get made now on the farm. I mean, it's millions of dollars many farmers are investing to put that crop in, and the landlord a lot of times doesn't want or doesn't really need to be involved with that because everything has changed in just the last few years. You look at biotechnology and GPS and all these new things that have come. The change is happening so rapid anymore, it's really hard to keep up with that unless you're actually farming each and every year.
I think it's still important though, Brian, to keep that relationship with the landowner. If you're the
Certainly.
tenant and you're out there farming, it used to be where you're sharing and you're talking all the time about these things. Now you may just see that person once or twice a year as they're getting the checks. And in fact, they may be in Arizona or something, who knows, for the winter, and you may be just mailing them a check. I think it's still important to talk to that farmer and let them know what's going on and say, hey, you know what, I'm doing a nice job for you. I got the weeds under control.
I mean, talk to the landlord.
Talk to that landowner and just say, you know, here's what we're doing out in the field. We're going to go corn this year. Here's why we're doing it, just so they know. And I realize they don't have any say in it. They're just renting you the ground. Hey, it's this much money and you can farm my ground, do whatever you want with it. But I think it's really important to let the farmer know or let that owner know that you're taking care of that ground for them, so you have that relationship going forward.
Yeah, but I disagree with you. I think that the landowner absolutely does want that ground to be taken care of. And in fact, many times the landlord is telling the farmer specifically, here's what I need to have done with the ground. You can't take any residue off the field or anything like that. And in a lot of cases now, what we're starting to see is landlords that are specifying, hey, you have to at least put as much fertilizer back as what you've removed from the ground. This, I think, is incredibly important. And it's another thing I talk to landlords about who want top dollar for cash rent. And I just say, look, if the guy's got to pay you top dollar for cash rent, guess where he's going to cut? He's probably going to try mining out some of your P&K. So what I'd rather see you do is cut back a little bit on what you want for rent and tell him, look, I'll cut your rent by $50, but I want that extra $50 going into fertility to build up my soil long term.
Farmland is certainly a good long-term investment, and if you are farming today, owning your own ground is a good thing for you because you have that stability and security. However, if you're going to either cash rent or share rent some more ground so you can farm more land or you can get started before you've built up enough equity to buy your own land, it's a great way to go. But it's still important, whether you're cash renting or share renting, to communicate with that landowner and build a relationship.
Well, one of the important things we always want to do on landlord ground and on our own ground is controlling tough weeds like our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?